On this vote, the yeas are 51, the nays are 39. 3/5 of the senators duly chosen and sworn not having voted in the affirmative. The motion is not agreed to.
Madam President,
Majority Leader.
I enter a motion to reconsider the failed cloture vote.
The motion is entered.
Just so the public should know, I switched my vote so we might reconsider and possibly vote on this again.
And that was the moment the Republicans voted against the Right to Contraception Act. The Republicans in the Senate blocked a bill proposed by Democrats in the Senate that would provide full protection for the American people to have right to access birth control. And because the United States Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade and Dobbs, the Democratic senators had every right to make sure that birth control would be codified, believing that this Supreme Court, and based on their prior statements that they made in overturning Roe v. Wade and the Dobbs decision and attacking a constitutional right to privacy, that the next thing the Supreme Court would be planning to do is to go after contraception, to go after birth control, to go after all other aspects of women's reproductive freedoms until there is none. And you've heard the MAGA Republicans and other Republicans gaslight you on various networks and say, we're not trying to ban contraception. That's not what we're trying to do at all. Our focus was simply Roe v. Wade, and that's about it, and states' rights, until they want to have a federal abortion ban, like the most drastic abortion bans in the reddest of states. And then the Democrats said, okay, then let's prove to the American people, if you actually believe that you want to protect access to birth control, to contraception, let's vote on it. And you saw right there that the Senate Republicans voted against it. We wrote about it on MeidasTouch.com, how Senate Republicans blocked the contraception bill. They're showing their true colors. And this afternoon, Senate Republicans blocked a procedural mechanism, cloture, to move forward a bill that would have protected access to contraception for women across America. The procedural vote needed 3/5 of the Senate to move forward. 51 senators, 50 of which are Republican. Democratic Senator Schumer had to switch his vote to yes to be able to bring the bill up in the future. That's how many voted against the procedural vote, while 39 senators voted in favor of it. For months, Republicans have been trying to persuade the public that they support protecting access to contraception for women in America, but obviously the fact that they voted against moving this bill forward and they blocked it, in a sense, procedurally filibustering it, shows you where they are on this issue. This is then what MAGA Republican Tim Scott had to say about it afterwards. Tim Scott says, the reason that we voted to block birth control, the reason that we wouldn't let this bill proceed is because the Democrats tried to politicize it. Here, play this clip.
So this vote, Right to Contraception Act, failed in the Senate today. It had to get 60 to get past the procedural hurdle. 39 nays. You were one of the nays.
Yes.
So for folks who, why vote nay, and explain how that's not a bad issue for Republicans.
Yeah, this is just a shame that the Democrats are willing to try to politicize whether or not women have access to contraceptions.
No, Tim Scott, this is precisely what Donald Trump has been saying as well. Here, for example, was an interview that Donald Trump gave last month. This was recent, where he was asked in the interview, and this was a Pennsylvania news station, and Trump was asked simply about whether he would support any types of legislation or efforts to ban contraception. And Trump says he was looking at banning it. Here, play this clip.
So related to this is the whole issue of contraceptives. Do you support any restrictions on a person's right to contraception?
We're looking at that, and I'm going to have a policy on that very shortly. And I think it's something that you'll find interesting. And it's another issue that's very interesting. But you will find it, I think, very smart. I think it's a smart decision. But we'll be releasing it very soon.
Okay. Here's another interview that Donald Trump gave, where he said that he wants to let states monitor women's pregnancies, and he would leave that to states. Here, play this clip.
Running that say that you would support certain states with bans monitoring a woman's pregnancy.
Well, that would be up to the states. Again, they will make a decision as to how they do it.
And here in when Trump was in Georgia, by the way, all of this happened in the last 45 days where Donald Trump's made these comments. I don't have to look back. This is what he just said. Trump says that states should be allowed to throw doctors in prison for reproductive health care. Here, watch this clip.
Hundreds of questions about abortion, but do you think a doctor should be punished who perform abortions?
I'll let that be to the states. You know, everything we're doing now is states and states' rights. And what we wanted to do is get it back to the states, because for 53 years it's been a fight. And now the states are handling it, and some have handled it very well, and the others will end up handling it very well. And those are the things that states are going to make a determination about. Okay?
Let me take you to the floor of the United States Senate, where I just want to show you what Democratic Senator Patty Murray had to say. Here, play this clip.
We are putting every single senator on the record today when we vote on the Right to Contraception Act. This bill is exactly straightforward and common sense as it sounds. It simply codifies Americans' right to birth control into law. To me, this is not just a messaging bill. It is a meaningful way to protect a really fundamental right. But it is absolutely right that how each of us votes will send a message. So what message do my Republican colleagues want to send the American people? What message do we want to send our constituents? That we support their right to birth control, that we support access to IUDs, to Plan B, or that we're okay taking that right away and letting politicians make medical decisions for women in this country. I know where I stand, with the overwhelming majority of people who support that right. And soon we will know exactly where every Republican senator stands as well. And Madam President, whatever happens with this vote, Democrats are going to keep pushing full force to hold Republicans accountable for their extreme policies, the harm they are causing, and we will work to restore abortion rights in this country and protect women's reproductive rights across the board.
Outside the courthouse, outside the Capitol building, you had Democratic Senator Tammy Baldwin talked about the Right to Contraception Act and the need that this be passed. Here, play this clip.
I will not just sit around waiting for the day that this Supreme Court takes away another one of our rights and freedoms. For my Republican colleagues who say women don't have the right to control their bodies when it comes to abortion care, then shouldn't we at least ensure more Americans can access birth control and get pregnant on their own terms? For my Republican colleagues who say this is just a messaging vote for Democrats, it doesn't have to be if you stand with the vast majority of Americans who want to protect the right to access contraception. Join us to pass the Right to Contraception Act.
Biden administration just released a statement. President Biden writes, Republican elected officials' extreme agenda continues to undermine access to reproductive health care. It's at odds with the majority of Americans, and it's unacceptable. My statement on the Senate Republicans blocking efforts to safeguard nationwide access to contraception. Let me read from this statement. Statement from President Joe Biden on Senate Republicans blocking efforts to safeguard nationwide access to contraception. Senate Republicans just refused to protect a woman's right to birth control. This is the second time since the Supreme Court's extreme decision to overturn Roe v. Wade that congressional Republicans have refused to safeguard this fundamental right for women in every state. It's unacceptable. Today's vote comes 2 days before the 59th anniversary of the Supreme Court's landmark decision in Griswold v. Connecticut, which established the fundamental right to privacy that protects the ability to make deeply personal decisions free from the interference of politicians, including to access contraception. 2 years ago, the Supreme Court put that right in jeopardy by overturning Roe v. Wade and taking away a woman's constitutional right to choose. As I said at the outset of the video, not only did the Supreme Court overturn Roe v. Wade, but what they wrote indicated that they were going to be reversing Griswold v. Connecticut, taking away your constitutional right to privacy. Since then, Republicans have doubled down. Republican elected officials' extreme agenda, which is at odds with the majority of Americans, continues to undermine access to reproductive health care, from abortion to contraception to in vitro fertilization. Dangerous abortion bans are forcing healthcare providers to close, disrupting access to critical healthcare services. Republican officials continue to try to restrict access to birth control and to defund federal programs that help women access contraception. Vice President Harris and I believe that women in every state must have the freedom to make deeply personal healthcare decisions, including the right to decide if and when to start to grow their family. My administration, alongside Democrats in Congress, will continue to fight to protect access to reproductive health care and keep taking action to strengthen access to affordable, high-quality contraception. And we will continue to urge Congress to restore the protections of Roe v. Wade in federal law and safeguard the right to contraception once and for all. And of course, you'll recall as well from our reporting that, you know, in state legislatures as well, where there is Republican control in the state legislature, same thing you're seeing here. For example, in Arizona, the Republicans blocked an effort there by Democrats to try to introduce a right to contraception bill to protect access to contraception. This is what happened in Arizona. Play the clip.
State Republicans in the House block an effort to protect birth control in our state. Democratic Rep. Stephanie Stahl Hamilton of Tucson made a motion to adopt a temporary rule to bring her bill to the floor for a vote. She says the bill, though, has not been assigned to any committees for consideration. Governor Hobbs urged members of the legislature to pass the Right to Contraception Act, and every Republican voted no.
The topic of this bill is so important that I believe it deserves a hearing. It is a topic that is relevant. It is a topic that deserves robust conversation, and it is a topic that most of the people in Arizona support.
Democrats have expressed concern about reproductive rights following the recent Alabama Supreme Court IVF ruling and also following the U.S. Supreme Court decision that overturned Roe v. Wade.
And so, folks, there is no both sides to this issue. There's one side, and it's the truth, and it's that one major American political party, the Democrats, are protecting a woman's right to choose, a woman's right to her bodily autonomy, reproductive freedoms, privacy, contraception. MAGA Republicans are voting against it and are against it. It's that simple. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to 3 million subscribers thanks to your support. It's free to subscribe, so please hit subscribe right now.
Enough! Send him to the big house, not the White House. Get the new exclusive tees, mugs, and stickers right now at store.MeidasTouch.com. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.